GNASS. Two degenerates, both sides of the border. John Santino, Alex Lacasse. The Great North American Sports Show. Welcome into another edition of GNASS, a special edition of GNASS as it comes to you well from a day that's fun for most of us, as it is St. Patrick's Day, if you can't tell by my hat. Alex, are you Irish at all?
Despite my last name, I am quite Irish, John. So I've been celebrating at least somewhat.
You better be in the New England area. And we will be celebrating too, as you can tell, here in Toronto, our hockey team formerly was the St. Pats, so celebrating our Irish roots here in the Six. Alex, how are you doing today?
Still upright, John. How are you?
Oh, I mean, dealing with a rainy, gloomy day here in Toronto, but hopefully the Leafs can cheer us up because we do have a game tonight against the Carolina Hurricanes, as we do record on this fine evening on March 17th. Alex, not as all well in NFL free agency though, as it seems like your boy is dominating the headlines again.
Yeah, no, I look forward to talking a lot of Aaron Rodgers on this program. But yeah, as you mentioned, John, it's St. Patrick's Day here on GNASS, which I may add happens to fall smack dab in the middle of March Mustache Madness, and only one of us is actually treating it as such.
I can't grow a mustache, dude. No circumstances I can grow a mustache, man.
There, you can always, you can.
I can. I'll take a pencil and I'll draw it in. Don't worry.
Yeah, we'll pull up the dolly. And over, as you may have already noticed, over 0.5 of one of your hosts may have already started drinking. But as John mentioned, we'll dive right into NFL free agency. We'll take a look at the moves so far. The Chicago Bears trade out of the number one spot. Real believers in Justin Fields. And also, yeah, spoiler alert, Aaron Rodgers is still a Packer at this moment, but that hasn't stopped those pathetic New York Jets from doing his bidding and signing his favorite pass catchers. John will take a spin around the NHL just to assess how some of the big pieces moved at the deadline are doing in their new cities. In open court, we'll slightly touch on the madness that's unfolding before us in this month to come, or what's left of it. John Morant gets suspended. The Kings, the Sacramento Kings, have clinched a winning record, and the Celtics turn back the clock to pre-New Year's, last year's turnaround selves. All that, plus this week in social media and Degenerates Corner tonight on GNASS. Without further ado, John, Aaron Rodgers has seemingly retired without retiring and now fancies himself as GM of the New York Jets. Do you like these moves for the Jets, laying the groundwork for Aaron Rodgers? And wouldn't it be just like him to not come to an agreement with the Packers and someone swoops in at the 11th hour and knocks him off his feet?
Oh, I really hope that happens. That would be amazing just for storyline purposes. But
so typical Jets.
I know, but like it just feels like Aaron Rodgers is trying to do everything to force his move to New York. And I mean, like you see it with the Alan Lazard signing, some of his other, like he's talking about Randall Cobb joining up with him too. It appears
you can't have Aaron Rodgers and not have Randall Cobb.
I know.
Fourth receiver.
That's Randall Cobb's the straw that broke his back, not Devontae Adams. Just remember that. But yeah, it seems like he's trying to force his way to the New York Jets. But Alex, to your point, the Jets are not going to cough up 2 first-round picks if he knows where he's going. So, I mean, how are you feeling about this whole situation? I know he's your favorite quarterback of all time that wears number 12. So,
yeah, absolutely. So, I just seeing how Brett Favre did this previously, and Aaron Rodgers has spent his entire career, wanting to be one of the guys, trying to be the anti-Brett Favre, even from what I understand, probably changes in the same locker rooms as his teammates, which Brett Favre didn't do. Let's just hope he doesn't repeat the entire Brett Favre experience with the Jets and sexually harass one or multiple of the female employees who happen to be employed by the franchise. So if Aaron Rodgers doesn't do that, I guess by virtue, he's already a success in New York. So I just want the Jets to have fun with this, because they'll probably have a better regular season than a team like the Patriots, probably finish above them in the division, and losing their first playoff game, because that's what Aaron Rodgers is good for the past 13 years of his career at least. So have fun with it.
He'll definitely it'll be some pandemonium in New York, especially with some of the, it'll be hype central with Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, like some of the other young players there, and like of course, all of Aaron's friends joining up. But I don't know. It's, to me, something, to your point about it being very, very familiar with Brett Favre's career. Like, it did not go well with the Jets. And like, something about this, like, just starting with the fact that like this trade is not going smoothly, like it just feels like this move is just destined to fail. That's just my feeling.
Now, right? Like, why isn't this
exactly like why? Like, what are we waiting for? Like, what's going on?
They're haggling over the guaranteed money that's left in Aaron Rodgers' contract, and how much control Aaron Rodgers is going to have within the Jets. Because I think right now, in these meetings that we've heard about,
it's clearly so you go.
No, I'm just saying that, like, Rodgers, he's obviously testing Saleh. What's his face? The Packers head coach. His brother is the offensive coordinator there.
I forget his name.
His last name's LaFleur, Matt LaFleur, and Mike LaFleur, Matt or Mike, I don't.
Mike LaFleur's with the Jets.
Yes, Mike LaFleur. Excuse me. So he's testing them to see how much he's going to get to call his shots from soup to nuts, like Brady did when Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The only difference between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers is about 5 Super Bowls. 5 Super Bowl wins, that is. We all know Aaron Rodgers is only, he's only gotten to it once. So I just, for a guy who has, until Patrick Mahomes has really come into his own, I think the rank and file NFL fan considered Aaron Rodgers the most talented, and by the same token, the best quarterback in the NFL for, at least the 2010s. And the Jets at this point, if they're getting the best of Aaron Rodgers, they're getting Aaron Rodgers at his past performances.
There's even a debate that Aaron Rodgers at a still elite level on this Jets roster doesn't get it done in the AFC anymore. Like, look at who's out there, man. Like, you mentioned the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Like we have the Ravens once they somehow figure out this Lamar Jackson situation. The Bills, I mean,
are the Ravens going to figure out the Lamar Jackson? Are we convinced at this point? Because I'm not.
We'll see, but I have a hard time believing with the way they set up his free agency with I forget what it's called, but basically him being a
non-exclusive franchise tag.
Yeah, the non-exclusive franchise tag, because he's essentially him being like a restricted free agent in other sports, more or less. But like the fact that he has that tag, like I can't imagine them not matching any deal for him. But at the same time, like suppose he stays in the AFC, like nothing but killers out there, man. And I still don't see this move being the one that all of a sudden makes the Jets like the best team in the AFC. Like I just can't see it.
And just to that point, you can go back the 3 years in Mike LaFleur's offense in Green Bay. And Rodgers, he performs well just because he's that talented, but it really doesn't look like a cohesive game plan. He still just looks like he's chucking it up there. And now you're going to put more oversight on him, or excuse me, you're going to put less oversight on him in this offense with Mike LaFleur, and who has the job in the NFL pretty much only because of his brother. Yeah, it's a problem.
Alex, I think that's enough for future GM of the New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers. What else around NFL free agencies caught your eye so far?
I mean, so it's not necessarily free agency, but anytime, I think this is the second
trade off-season acquisition, any of the sort.
I think this is the only, maybe it might only be the second time this century that a team has traded out of their number 1 draft pick. And if you're the Chicago Bears, that shows that you really believe in Justin Fields. And I like the skill set. I think he is a scrambling quarterback who can throw the ball. And it's just, if he was on any other team that's not the Chicago Bears, which when we talk about the Chicago Bears, we say we ask who's the best quarterback in the history of Chicago Bears. Your options are Jim McMahon, Rex Grossman, and Jay fucking Cutler. I just
highest paid offensive player of all time, Jay Cutler. At one point,
there's just so much institutional suck at the Bears position under center. You do have like doubt creeps in, like, well, what level can they get Justin Fields to? Are we talking a top 20, top 10? I don't trust the Bears to ever groom a top 5 quarterback, but it is interesting. The Bears said, like, all right, like, we're going to roll with Justin Fields and let's recoup as much as we can for this number 1 pick and try to build a roster using these picks to support Justin Fields.
I don't mind the decision if they truly believe in Justin Fields. Like, I think there's obviously a degree of development that you need to make that jump into like being a really, really solid team. But I mean, we've seen the Bears now with the acquisition of DJ Moore and all those picks. Like, we know they're going to use it, obviously, as you mentioned, to build around Justin Fields, but we've seen them go fully free spending this offseason now too to strengthen that team. Excuse me. Big Bob.
Moore's a good pickup in that trade. That
is fantastic. Like, he's a legitimate top receiver on a team. And now you get Justin Fields that target. You get Bob Tonyan too from the Packers, who, I mean, experienced in the division, big red zone target, like another reliable player for Justin Fields to throw to. And like I said, free spending and free agency, obviously a lot of it on defense, but I mean, they were able to bring in Nate Davis too to help protect Justin Fields. So I really think they need to spend these picks to bring in, like, they lost David Montgomery, like maybe another running back, and then just fucking load the offensive line because Justin Fields can run the ball. You need to protect him and let him deliver that ball without getting knocked on his ass. And especially as a running QB, man, he's got to take as little hits as possible. But
I think the jury's still out if the Bears can properly build around a quarterback.
I don't trust them, but I love that they're going for it because it gives us so many like storylines, like the fact that they signed like Tremaine Edwards, DeMarcus Walker, TJ Edwards, like so much money spent on the defensive side of the ball too. So like hopefully they can turn it around quick, especially like given the fact that they were just coming off of that Roquan Smith disaster at middle linebacker. But it's Chicago, so it's tough to see them like try to figure out this whole quarterback situation, especially when they're just gifted the number 1 pick. And one thing that will always overshadow this team is, like, Alex, what if whoever the Panthers take goes on to win like 2 or 3 Super Bowls, has a Hall of Fame career?
Like, I'm not in love with the quarterback class this
year.
I'm
not saying you have to be in love with them, but I'm just saying what if. And it reflects very
Bryce Young might be 5'10". And
did you not fall in love with the Richardson jumping videos at the draft?
No, I don't watch the combine. Like, oh yeah, like the 3 cone drill. This is look at this guy's 3 cone drill. That's how you project an NFL Hall of Famer. It's I don't like the quarterback class this year now that the Bears have traded out of that first spot. It's going to be another run on quarterbacks. And, if it's Levis, the Ohio State kid, and Bryce Young, and they go in 3 of the first 4 picks, that's at least 2 stupid NFL franchises. You can't pick quarterbacks off the board just because you're horny for a fucking quarterback.
Well, that's the whole reason the Panthers traded up.
Homeboy. Oh, absolutely. No, I know. So at least now the Panthers get to their pick of the lot, which,
that's better than not, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's like, all right, maybe you drafted a C+ guy and he just happened to be the highest grade that was standing in that year. I don't it is a very, very dangerous proposition in the NFL to go hunting for a quarterback in the draft in a year when there is not at least a handful of players that you can project out to say, in this system, we coach this guy up. We've solved our problem at quarterback for 4+ years.
Four,
I don't see that.
4+ years. You're hoping for a fucking decade when you make that kind of trade, or when you draft
Well,
anyone
at
that
least
high.
like you get to ride out that rookie contract, and maybe you're the Seattle Seahawks that beat the you're the 7-9 Seattle Seahawks. You win that playoff game against New Orleans. Marshawn Lynch has has that incredible run. There's the earthquake in freaking Seattle with how loud that stadium was. And then you get to draft Russell Wilson in the 3rd round that next year. And it's like, okay, yeah, we have everything else on the team. We just need a guy who doesn't F up at this position. Versus, like, I don't think Will Levis, the Ohio State kid whose name's escaping me.
Richardson.
Yeah. Richardson and Bryce Young. I just don't see them as, change makers. And now some team like the Panthers, I guess I hope it works. I hope it works out for them on some level, but like to expend all of that draft capital and then you draft a bust, great. You set your franchise back 8 years.
No, I agree. Alex, there's one quick thing I want to touch on before we move on from or excuse me, it's CJ Stroud, not Richardson. I don't know. It's B. John Richardson was I believe the one who had the crazy. Yeah. But anyway, Alex, one last thing I want to touch on before we move on from football. Both of our teams made tight end moves. How are you feeling about the new tight end of your New England Patriots?
I mean, Gesicki's he's a solid NFL player. Scott Chandler was a solid NFL tight end when the Patriots brought him in, and he caught maybe 30 passes.
Chad Ochocinco was solid too, but they never threw the ball to him.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously Robert Gronkowski was the lead tight end those years, but yeah, then the Scott Chandler only last year on the Patriots. I think he retired after that season. So Jonnu Smith was useless in this offense because he couldn't block. So maybe Gesicki can do essentially duplicate what Hunter Henry does, but then it begs the question: why do I need 2 Hunter Henrys in my offense? One was somewhat performing commensurate with his contract. I like the Giants getting Darren Waller a hell of a lot more, especially if you're going to take advantage of Josh McDaniels pulling off a petty trade. And he already decreased the value that he may have gotten in return. He's like, F this guy. I need to get him out of here.
I love the Darren Waller trade.
Tight end off your hands, like no problems there. So no, great move for the Giants. What was a 5th round pick?
3rd, but I love the Darren Waller trade. The one problem with Darren Waller, of course, he has trouble staying on the field, but fantastic football player, like one of the best, like multiple 1,000-yard seasons, like all pro tight end when he's in form and playing well, but has trouble staying on the field. I think he's missed 17 games the last 2 seasons, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. But either way, like great player. Hopefully it works out with the Giants, and I believe he's non-guaranteed after this year, if I'm not mistaken. So if it doesn't work out, you just cut him. Yeah, which I fully expect him to be cut before the end of his contract anyway, just due to the amount of money that he's being paid, unless he goes like full Rob Gronkowski. But
I mean, that could be on the table. I mean,
he's a fantastic player, though.
Who's the best tight end in that division right now?
Sorry, did you say who is?
Yeah, in the NFC East.
He's definitely, when he's healthy, he's up there. Because I'm trying to think, like, ooh,
Dallas Goedert's steady, but is he? He's not a game breaker like Goddard is.
No, exactly. And Goddard even like
Cowboys, and then who cares about the Washington football franchise? That's the
yeah, because I was gonna say Goddard, even though like he's solid, but I wouldn't put him in the same class as like one of those guys who just eats up matchups. And although he is a fantastic player too, Dallas Goedert. But yeah, man, ooh, tough one.
Well, John, we're gonna transfer. We're gonna shift gears from the NFL to another sport. It just enjoyed a pretty hearty transaction period leading up to its trade deadline. That'd be the NHL, John. As you look around the league, following you saw this huge arms race in especially the Atlantic Division
It
and
was really, really out east. Everyone went east.
so yeah, geographically the Northeast. Um,
Well, because you got to remember Rangers Devils went big too. So
yes, Devils made another significant move as well. So yeah, you have the Rangers Devils tri-state rivalry, and then the Atlantic Division all loading up for what should be a really exciting playoff season. What are some of your lingering thoughts coming out of the deadline, and how do you think some of these guys are fitting in their new surroundings?
well, first off, shout out to Jonathan Quick with the LA, or excuse me, not LA, from LA to Las Vegas. Jonathan Quick 4-0 with his new team, looking like he's recaptured his playoff form. I don't think it'll last
It's
because
like when a goalie who's had Stanley Cup level success is able to move at the deadline, they do get a nice boost and a rejuvenation there.
it's really nice just seeing Jonathan Quick play well again. But just a shout out to him because he's played 4 really good games for Vegas, who's desperately in need with Logan Thompson, excuse me, hitting injured reserve. But Alex, we need to take a moment to hit another punching bag from GNASS. We need to laugh about the Vancouver Canucks.
Oh,
Alex,
the Canucks.
the Vancouver Canucks are a rebuilding team, and they managed to pay more for Philip Hronik than the Ottawa Senators did for Jacob Chikrin. So, bravo, Vancouver. You guys did it again. You guys just never cease to amaze me as what a fucking dumpster fire you are. But I mean, hopefully it'll turn itself around in Vancouver soon. But I just thought it was funny because
It seems like there's always going to be one franchise in the NBA or NHL that's just perpetually rebuilding, and when you get a lifeline, they fail to grab it.
It's basically been the Vancouver Canucks since they got rid of the Twins. And yeah, so just thank you, Vancouver. Just thank you again for just you guys fuck up so much. But another one too, Rasmus Sandin, dude. From the Maple Leafs to the Capitals, Rasmus Sandin has been on fire since taking on. Obviously, part of it's because John Carlson's been out, so he's been able to step into the top power play, play lots of minutes, right next to Alex Ovechkin in the top line. He's a fantastic player, and be honest, Rasmus Sandin. But the reality is, he was not going to play in Toronto. He was like the number 8-9 defenseman here, but it was a great hockey trade for both teams because Toronto gets a draft pick back. Unfortunately, it's the Bruins draft pick, so more on the more I'd say adding to the storyline come postseason time if those two teams end up meeting. But if you're a Leafs fan, man, don't worry. Rasmus Sandin's going to go on to have a fantastic career, but the fact of the matter is it wasn't going to be here in Toronto. He just simply wasn't playing. And
Kind of like when the Bruins shipped out Blake Wheeler.
exactly that. Like Blake Wheeler, unbelievable player, but he was never going to be more than like the way that he played, like more than like a
third line. Yeah.
exactly, like third line, maybe power play specialist in Boston. And he didn't want that. So they got someone who more aligned with what they needed. And same idea with Rasmus Sandin, man. Like great player, but just with Toronto, he wasn't going to make the lineup. And especially with the additions of Luke Shen and Jake McCabe. But, congrats to him on the move and fantastic start in Washington.
Yeah. And so when you look at the deadline, was there any players out there that you were surprised didn't move?
One, Erik Karlsson. Now, people are going to talk a bunch of shit about his contract, Alex, because he is the highest paid defenseman in the National Hockey League. But, dude, like the guy entering this week had as many even strength points as Connor McDavid, and he's a defenseman.
And when you looked around the league and you saw these moves getting done, like teams were willing to like help out another team take on money if it behooved them in some way, shape, or form.
I'm looking at like Arizona going like, yo, you could have eaten like San Jose eats say $4 million of Erik Karlsson's contract. Arizona eats another half to get a second round pick out of it. It's like all of a sudden this guy's only making like, okay, so let's do that one, right? So let's say San Jose eats $3 million. He's down to 8.5. Then you get Arizona to eat another half, $4.25 million. Like any team can stomach that deal for Erik Karlsson. Like I almost don't even need to pitch a trade for him, man. But like Erik Karlsson is easily the most exciting player from the blue line besides Cale Makar. And the fact that he's on a last place team is just so fucking disappointing. And dude, like the Sharks want to trade him and he's okay with being traded. It's just crazy to me that no one didn't like teams inquired, but they didn't really like push the needle to make it happen, which to me is just so bothersome.
Do you think that is residual from his last couple down years and teams didn't want to take on that much risk or jump through all those hoops to try to facilitate a trade with some third team taking on money and there's all these other maturations?
Basically some combination of that. Like I think because it's midseason and the fact that he had these previous health issues, like no team wanted to do this whole complicated, like we need to find a third party team. And then what would the price be because of how good Erik Karlsson is and how long the deal is in terms of it. That's like, it's 4 more seasons that another team would have to eat money. So you ideally like would think, or you would think that only San Jose would do it basically type thing. But I think you could have gotten creative because like Arizona's not trying to be good anytime soon. Like there's a lot of ways you could have made Erik Karlsson work. And to me, it's just I really wanted to see him move to another team or contender. That's all. Just some sort of change of scenery where he's not on a team that's going to be in the Connor Bedard sweepstakes. But I guess I get it from San Jose's perspective too. Like charge a ridiculously inflated price because then if you happen to get Connor Bedard, you also have Erik Karlsson. So
True, that could be a quick turnaround, that's for sure. Kind of not exactly apples to apples, but
yeah,
certainly like the Blackhawks had like Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook in place, and they get Taves and Kane, and then off they were. So it's not a terrible.
yeah. There could be worse outcomes. You need a goalie, but yeah, there could be definitely worse things out there. And yeah, but that was the one that really stood out to me because with some of the teams too that were rumored in the like we obviously don't know who actually inquired about him or who offered a trade, but like to hear like for example, and this could just be media talking, but to hear a team like Toronto sniffing around Erik Karlsson, like Toronto's a very creative team when it comes to trades. Like they could have made that work. I mean, it would have probably meant someone like Morgan Riley being shipped out the door to make it like for like, and like, not that he makes $11 million, but in terms of just to be able to accommodate his salary under the cap. But what's up?
Would you make that trade?
Oh yeah, I would. I'd trade like Morgan Riley, the first round pick we acquired, and like Topi Niemelä for Erik Karlsson. Like I trade basically multiple first round pick, whatever first round picks Toronto had left, like Morgan Riley and Topi Niemelä, who's like a defenseman prospect, for Erik Karlsson. And I'd even debate putting in a forward as long as it's not Matthew Nyes for Erik Karlsson, like retained twice, if that makes sense. Like it's
Sure.
like San Jose retains like say $3 million and then like get another team to retain some small amount of money, and then just so you have him under, I'd say anything under $8 million, I'd say is amazing for Erik Karlsson, even for the rest of his contract, because the way that he plays, it's just is a lot like obviously there's injury risks associated with him, but if you can get him under that number, it really mitigates that. And he's just so like effective. Like he's so good at getting the puck to the net, and it's just such an effective skill as a defenseman.
Definitely. And John, real quick wellness check. Early returns on one Ryan O'Reilly in Toronto.
Ooh, heartbreaking because of the finger injury, but he will return before the playoffs, Alex. We'll check back in a couple weeks.
All right. With that, we'll take a quick break on GNASS. We'll come back up. We'll open court. That was redundant. We will we'll lace up the sneakers and hit the open court. And so don't flinch, don't move an inch. We'll be right back, just like your hairline here on GNASS.
And we're back. Alex, you mentioned it. We're going to hit the open court because who doesn't love to hit the open court in the most exciting time of the year for college basketball, which of course is March Madness. Alex, would any thoughts, anything you want to tell our viewers about your March Madness experience, any memories, any bets? Like what you got going on, man?
The last Villanova championship when Chris Jenkins hit that buzzer beater. I think it was going to be UNC or I think it was UNC or Duke. One of those, like Duke, Kansas, one of those blue bloods. That like that was the peak of the NCAA tourney, and I think it was a tie game, so it wasn't like they were down two. He hits this, three halfway between the 3-point line and center court. Like it was a perfectly executed play with like from their baseline. For like nothing will top that. Bearing in mind, this year in college basketball, there were no elite teams that separated themselves through the course of the regular season this year. Compared to years past, whether it's a John Calipari Kentucky team with Anthony Davis, or yeah, John. So at least in this year in college basketball, there were no truly elite teams, and I think the regular season bore that out. There were very few teams across the NCAA landscape that had even more than 25 wins, with the conference tournaments included. So bearing in mind in March Madness, nothing will ever top that last Villanova championship with Chris Jenkins hitting this, the game-winning buzzer beater from, halfway between midcourt and the 3-point line. So, watching that game live was, that was peak March Madness. Still, the tournament so far, we're 1.5 days in. Arizona losing, typically we haven't had, there weren't any 5-12 upsets before Arizona went down. There hasn't been a 5-12 upset yet, as of recording time at 7:30 on Friday on St. Patrick's Day. I picked Houston to win it all this year. Houston, they're coming out of a weaker conference, the AAC, but Kelvin Sampson has been building this program for a good 5 years now. They're without their best point guard in Marcus Sasser. He's having a nagging groin injury. I think he tweaked it in the AAC championship game against Memphis, or it was the game prior. And Memphis blew out Houston in that championship game. Conference tournaments, they're kind of the warm up or the dress rehearsal for the big dance. So, if you think a favorite looked, got caught up in their conference tournament and they got upset, that's not necessarily a red flag here. But it is funny that Arizona lost because they were a top Gonzaga lieutenant, Tommy Lloyd, went to go coach that team. And if you've listened to this program at all, you know that as much as I love Gonzaga as America's team, they're just never going to win an NCAA championship. So the fact that Arizona has had all of this tournament failure since Tommy Lloyd got there kind of tells you everything you need to know about Gonzaga, in that, damn, they'll get close and they'll look great doing it, but if you pick them to win your bracket this year, I can't help you. Like, you're fucked. You're absolutely fucked. John, who's winning your bracket?
Ooh, I don't know who's winning my bracket, Alex, but there's one thing I wanted to talk about, because you did mention about how there hasn't been any top teams. One thing that the NCAA tournament always brings up is, as you mentioned, memories such as Carmelo Anthony dominating with Syracuse or Kemba Walker with Connecticut.
Yeah,
and the other thing is cult heroes. And I think back to guys like Francisco Garcia with Louisville, and of course AC Law with Texas A&M. And I think we might have another one on our hands this year, Alex, because the best player for your Kansas Jayhawks, Mr. Grady Dick. Alex,
the name alone is like,
this is
thinking about it, like it is
we're talking cult hero right here, man. Like, this guy, like,
might be a first round pick.
Like, that's what I'm talking. Well, right now he's projected at number 11, but like, and we'll get to that later because we do the mock draft every week on GNASS now. But the thing is that this guy, man, what a name. The Kansas Jayhawks, of course, is always one of the top seeds in the tournament. But guys, follow Grady Dick. Jump on the Dick bandwagon.
First name ends in Y. One syllable last name. I'm not one to compare players to Larry Bird, but I mean, hey, anything's possible.
He's a 6'7" freshman, man. I get it, and he's white, but Dick needs to shoot. Dick needs to make it rain in order for Kansas to win. So that's just my shout out for the tournament this week. I didn't want to pick any winners, as you said, just yet, because we do love to do a bit of Gonzaga bashing on the show, but I want to keep it light. Just for the NCAA
Gonzaga
tournament.
is America's team. I do not bash Gonzaga. I'm just a realist when it comes to
No,
Gonzaga.
you just don't lose your money on them.
You just don't bet on them. Like you can have fun enjoying Gonzaga and hoping they do well. Just don't bet on them because you'll ultimately lose.
That's why you don't bet on them. One thing that'd be interesting though, can you imagine Victor Wembanyama in the tournament? Ooh.
It would be kind of like when Karl Anthony Towns was at Kentucky, and that Kentucky team went 30-1 and lost, 31-1 and lost in the championship game.
Yeah, I don't think they'd lose in that championship game though with him.
Karl. Yeah, I think Cat didn't have the outside game that he does in the NBA right now. And we'll switch gears right now to the NBA, John. Probably the biggest news. This has been 17 years in the making. The Sacramento Kings have clinched a winning record, and Jesus Christ, John, they might finish second in the West.
They're like good. Like I don't know when that happened, but they're like good. And
Mike Brown has spent his entire NBA coaching career waiting for Domantas Sabonis to do his Vlade Divac impression,
and he's doing it.
He's doing it.
He's doing it. Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, just dominating. This has been like a team that, I mean, just dude, like I thought they were destined to fail just because they're the Kings, but
I thought they were going to top out. Like I thought, like you're looking at maybe like a play-in tournament team this year.
Yeah, exactly. Like something like where it's like maybe they do this, but it's like maybe
progress for the Kings,
dude. Like,
but now, holy shit,
they're fucking good. Like the fact that like they're top to bottom a team that they have depth. Like they have wings. They have Malik Monk. They got Davion Mitchell, who fantastic on ball defender. Of course, Harrison Barnes with that championship experience. Like, dude, they're starting to look like a legitimate team. Like they got Delly. Like Delly's always good to have on your bench, but like it's just, dude, it's one of those things. Like they've come out of nowhere to just recapture some of that Chris Webber magic, and like, you know,
Chris Webber was gone from Sacramento the last time they made the playoffs. They had Brad Miller patrolling the paint.
That's true, but like they've recaptured some of that excitement, man. Like you said, first time in 17 years they're guaranteed an above 500 record, and this could be one of the favorites in the West until they run into like I don't know LeBron James, like something like that.
Well, the Lakers at this rate, with LeBron's injured, we'd like to make the LeBron James.
Hey man, they're doing their best. They're trying really, really hard with their new look backcourt.
Yeah, until D'Lo spills who is a teammate's road beef are.
I know, but Alex,
Anthony Davis' significant other.
But Alex, you mentioned also how the Kings might clinch the second seed as well. Part of that has to do with Ja Morant and his suspension. So, Alex, would you care to elaborate for those who haven't been following?
Like reading about this Ja Morant suspension, and I'm glad that he's checked himself in to get the therapy that he needs. So that first and foremost, like let's hope that he does get that necessary help. And I never want to stigmatize anyone seeking mental help in any way, shape, or form. So that has to be said first and foremost. Now back to basketball and what this means for the Grizzlies going forward. I think, unfortunately for the rest of the Grizzlies, when Ja Morant spoke to Malika Andrews and said, "We're not concerned about anyone in the West. Yeah, but the Boston Celtics might be a threat," and that was back in I think December. I think the rest of the Western Conference is taking like, oh yeah, like you've been sitting and waiting for the Warriors to somewhat crater, and you think you're that next team. No, you're not. Like I think the Nuggets took that personally. Hell, maybe even the Sacramento Kings took that personally. So I think the Grizzlies are teetering right now. And with this suspension, this kind of really dragged the NBA back to where it was in the early 2000s. And the league, for better or for worse, tried to stamp out the uh crime gangster element or like image that some of the players like to carry themselves with.
One thing I will say is that guys, like, this is why each team should have a social media policy or someone assisting these. Like, doesn't have to be someone like posting for them or something like that, but just like guidelines on what they should and shouldn't be doing. So it's very clear. Like, obviously, people make mistakes and like stuff happens, but
At
just
least he didn't
something.
go Plaxico Burris. That would have been a
Hey, man, Plexico doesn't go to the same clubs we do, so we don't know what goes down there. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, like you don't want to be doing anything dumb, especially like that. And the fact that he was already on camera is really not a good, like, it's your point, not a good look, but not good that you're like already catching yourself in a situation where you know trouble's probably about to come. And yeah, like in terms of basketball, yeah, they're falling. And to your point, the Kings might end up as the number 2 seed. And if they don't get Ja Morant back soon, this could be even more detrimental than we think to them in terms of like chemistry, getting like back in stride and playing at full, like basically getting the engine revving on all cylinders, so to speak.
and we should note this isn't the only incident that Morant has been tied to in recently. Charges were dropped in this case, but he was accused of physically assaulting a minor individual in and around Memphis. Who I guess the narrative more or less is that this kid was chirping during like a pickup basketball game, and Morant was happened to be in and around the area, and it's for how much the NBA values Morant and what his image is, and the impact that he has on the game. It is a bad look, and yeah, we can only hope that Morant does get the necessary intervention to put this behind him.
No, absolutely. Alex, we have some other well, it's not as bad as what's going on with John necessarily, but in your eyes, it might be a little bit panicky. Your Boston Celtics throw up another goose egg, buddy. How'd that go?
I mean, I watched every minute of the the game against the Houston Rockets, who again I will underline bold, underline 3 times, are trying to lose.
Can't
And
stress that enough. They're trying really hard.
they're trying really freaking hard. And the Celtics team, just like they did before they turned things around last season, heading into New Year's, it's almost like this team is surprised that other NBA teams want to come out and compete on a night in, night out basis. They went into Houston, probably still drunk or hungover, and thought like, oh, it's the Houston Rockets. Like, they're not going to show up tonight. Well, the other team also gets to play basketball, and that's the one thing it seems like the Celtics have neglected these last couple weeks, and they've definitely moved themselves out of contention for the number 1 seed, and they seem like they're resigned to giving it to the Bucks. And the one thing that this Celtics team has not proven, short of winning an NBA championship, is that when they get punched in the mouth, can they respond? And the last 2-3 weeks has really shaken my confidence that they can.
Well, that's no good, man. You know, the Boston Celtics with last year's finals appearance were really looking strong and hoping to get it together. You know, I was really thinking they were going to flip a switch one of these days.
They may never flip it, and that therein lies the problem, John. And short, like there is only the only way is through. And I've said this plenty of times about this Celtics team. If like you never need to, like, you're not supposed to always like demand or expect an NBA like a championship in whatever sport. No, I'm demanding it from the Celtics this year. Like, anything short of a long NBA Finals run is inexcusable.
That's ridiculous. You're allowed to demand a deep run from your team, buddy. That's kind of the whole point of sports. Like, that's part of the reason why teams rebuild, is because they don't get there. And you're fully allowed to demand that, especially from the Boston Celtics, who went there last year and got stronger. might I
Yeah,
add.
I mean, only if Marcus Smart has druthers, maybe they get shot out of Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals in Miami. Who Marcus Smart, by the way, prior to the Celtics win the other night in Minnesota, he was -3 since he came back from his injury. And this dude's ego, he was probably looking at it like, oh, Derek White won Player of the Week. Well, I'm just as valuable to this team.
I can take a lot of shots, man.
Let me show you. I'll jack it up 13 times a game, up from I think 8 in 9 attempts and change from prior to his injury, and Marcus Smart taking 4 bad shots in critical components of games, it can be the difference between wins and losses. And I hope that's
especially come playoff time when the games are decided by one possession.
Yes, and I hope that's not lost on Celtics fans, because otherwise, I mean, if we're gonna do this exercise again,
but Alex, he's like super long tenured.
yeah, no, I'm unless I'm watching Marcus Smart on a duck boat in June, I will. You'll see me in attendance at the Celtics last game. I'll be well disguised so I can make my way down to the court, and I'll be like, "Hey, Marcus, you got to come with me," and I'll piggyback him to an undisclosed location and waiting for Brad Stevens to make the trade. That's where
I'll ship him out of town for now. Oh,
that's
that'd be amazing.
right now.
Well, fingers crossed that does happen for you, buddy. But I think that's enough on Marcus Smart ruining your life for now, because he has all playoffs to do that and stress you out.
Yeah, I know.
Alex,
Yeah, don't remind me.
Alex, what caught your eye this week on social media?
Well, John, as we mentioned earlier, the NCAA tournament is back on, and Rick Pitino, he lost today, unfortunately, coaching Iona. We may see him resurface back in the Big East with St. John's in very short order. Part of Rick Pitino's downfall at the University of Louisville, as you may recall, was assistant coaches were empowered with funds from, dare I say, questionable sources. And those funds were used to, I don't know, entertain the recruits with ladies of the evening, female entertainment, etc.
Happy fun times.
Well, so all of that was maybe one chapter in this significant investigation that the FBI conducted into college basketball and how these players ended up at certain programs versus other programs, and how much the sports agency world was infiltrating college basketball, knowing that these players were at their no more than 1 year away from making a significant windfall with that first NBA contract if they're a first round pick. The Los Angeles Times published a story on March 9th detailing how this FBI investigation came about, and how the agent's own conduct at various points derailed this investigation and probably didn't make it as comprehensive and as significant as it otherwise probably should have been. I quote from the Los Angeles Times. In the heart of a city known for heists and hangovers, the 4 agents were running an undercover operation as part of their probe into college basketball corruption, and investigators codenamed Ballers with a Z. One of the agents
Legendary.
One of
Legendary.
the agents, a deep-pocketed businessman wanting to bribe coaches to persuade their players to retain a particular sports management company when they turn professional. He distributed more than $40,000 in cash to a procession of coaches invited to the penthouse. The sting concluded at a poolside cabana on a blistering afternoon, July 2017, with the final envelope of cash passed to one last coach. After that transaction, the lead case agent, Scott Carpenter, joined the undercover operative and 2 other agents in eating and drinking their way through a $1,500 food and beverage minimum to rent said cabana. Carpenter had consumed nearly a fifth of vodka and at least 6 beers by the time he returned to the penthouse to shower and change clothes before a night out. He grabbed $10,000 in undercover cash from a penthouse safe, then headed to a high-limit lounge at the casino next door. What happened next would ultimately stay in the investigation like a cocktail spilled on a white tablecloth. It's just, this is madness, and it's almost like is the does the crime fit the punishment? And for the FBI to go through these extreme lengths and empower these agents to essentially rage face for as long as it took to turn in these dirty basketball coaches. I don't know. It seems a little extreme for my taste, John.
It's always a little much, man. But of course, those freshmen did have some fun times. So, Alex, my social media hit. I'm going to take it a little bit lighter in terms of what it did, but the refs in the NHL constantly get it wrong, and this time they got it very wrong. As Marc-Andre Fleury in last week or last, I guess it'd be last night or 2 nights ago's Jets and or not Jets, excuse me, Blues and Wild game skated the full length of the ice to fight Jordan Binnington. He even tried convincing the refs, which we have mic'd up, but the refs did not let them go. Man, we need to see more of these goalie fights. They're absolutely wild. Marc-Andre Fleury might be old, but he's had a goalie fight before. Jordan Binnington, just an absolute son of a bitch, takes swings at people in the middle of the game despite being a goalie. So, guys, get it right. Let him fight. That's it.
The NBA definitely needs to re-embrace this. Just like let him go. Like
just let people hit people in the face, man. It helps them
fight. Just let him fight.
It helps sometimes.
Because I'm trying to think, did Tim Thomas have a goalie fight to his career? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
He's fought somebody. I don't think it was another goalie. I feel like he.
Was it Burroughs in the Stanley Cup final?
No. He hit Daniel Sedina in the Stanley Cup final.
He slashed them a couple times so to piss them off, but I don't think he didn't.
Oh no, Tim Thomas fought Carey Price. Nice.
Okay, that's why I'm like Tim Thomas has one goalie fight. It's like otherwise, it's like that's a little Tim Thomas-esque, slashing people and the back of the ankle and whatnot. Like, all right, at least Tim Thomas.
Jordan Binnington's a pretty big bitch, dude. Like that's how that goes down. That's why I was like, let these guys fight. Like Jordan Binnington has this coming, especially like if a guy's gonna go full like the ice, like just let him throw a couple punches, break it up afterwards. That's it.
Absolutely, that's it. I co-sign. John, we'll switch gears to Degenerate's Corner. It's about that time.
Sometimes she goes, sometimes it does. She didn't go. It's the way she goes.
22 black, 22 black. Ass, son of a bitch.
Fucking way she goes, he said.
Oh, no. Why did I bet the company payroll? Oh, Gil's in a lot of trouble.
Can the boys beat the number? We'll find out on Degenerate's Corner.
It's the way she goes, buddy. Fucking way she goes.
Let's do it.
For a quick refresher, John, how'd you do last week?
I did bad. I bet on Brighton. They lost. Or no, they didn't lose. They tied. But I mean, I bet on them to win, so I lost. Alex, how about yourself?
I had the Grizzlies-Lakers. I think it was a Saturday primetime game. And I flipped over towards the end of the first quarter, and it was 22-18. I'm like, I figured I'm in trouble. So we didn't come close to the total that night. It was 224.5. So that's a loss. But
no bueno, my friend.
We are going to shift gears, John. Where are you going for your best bet?
Ooh, so for my best bet, we're going to hit the ice. The Boston Bruins will be visiting the aforementioned Minnesota Wild. I'm going to take the Bruins to win on the money line at -155. That is my best bet. The Bruins are winning 80% of their games this year, man. So this is a pretty solid bet, but knowing my luck, they'll lose. But the Bruins, I like them to win in Minnesota as they still have some business wrapping up the, let's say Northeast. It's the Atlantic Division, excuse me. Alex, where are you going for your best bet, my friend?
Well, it's March Madness, so I figured what the hey, we might as well get at least one college basketball bet here out on GNASS. I mentioned off the top, or at least when we started talking hoops, that I like Houston to win it all. But Houston has an amazing, amazing defense. And if Marcus Sasser, who's their best offensive player, especially this time of year, we're talking guard play. If he's hobbled at all, that definitely diminishes Houston's scoring potential. They're playing Auburn, not world beaters on offense by any stretch. So we're going to go under 132, and they tip off. Stand by. Don't you dare not stand by. They play tomorrow evening, Saturday, at 7:10 Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Auburn and Houston under 132. John, do you have a long shot or a parlay for the lovely folk listening and or viewing?
I do. So we're going to take the Bruins money line against the Wild and parlay with another game on Saturday night, which is the Dallas Stars, first place in the I forget what the other one out west is. I believe it's the Central Division, which we're going to take the Stars on the money line against the Flames on Saturday, which is March 18th, and then parlay that with some footy. We're going to hit the pitch in England. We're going to take Tottenham on the money line versus Southampton and Brentford on the money line versus Leicester. This total parlay gives you plus 1085. Alex, what about you? Were you going for your super Sunday parlay, or super weekend parlay, I should say?
So we're going to both the NBA and the college hardwood. We're going to start tonight in Columbus, Ohio. Memphis on the money line over Florida Atlantic. We're going to take Kansas State on the money line over Montana State. It's only minus 250, so Kansas State, granted, they played out of the Big 12. Big 12 is probably the best conference pound for pound in college basketball this year. I like Kansas State to go on a deep run, but we just need them to win tonight. Tomorrow, I mentioned Houston. We have them on the money line, winning over Auburn. I think Houston's the best team in college basketball, though the delta between them and number 2, maybe not so great as in years past. We're going to take Texas on the money line. I like them to go on a deep run, too, in this tournament. They're playing Penn State. Penn State with Coach Micah Shrewsbury, they've made it so that when you think Penn State, you think just a little bit less about football. That is deep penetration in terms of those yahoos out there at State College, Pennsylvania. Penn State proud of restoring your Joe Paterno statue or whatever. We can have a whole show on how much I hate Penn State, John.
We could go on for a while.
Bad people out there. Not enough bad things can happen to Penn State. We're gonna take UCLA on the money line tomorrow. They're playing Northwestern. They're just happy to be here. They got a bunch of all those nerds going into accounting when the college basketball season ends. Alabama on the money line over Maryland. Maryland really had no business beating West Virginia, so Alabama, what's his face, dude who may have been an accessory to Brandon Miller, the guaranteed top 10 NBA draft pick, may have had a very indirect involvement in a murder, but we're neither here nor there. When you're Alabama and you're this good at basketball, you can, ostensibly, you look past these things. So
Stuff happens, man. Stuff happens.
Hey, they got the number 1 overall seed in the tournament, so we'll see how that shakes out for them. We got the Celtics on the money line tonight. They're in Portland. Just take care of business. Jesus effing Christ, please. Mavericks Lakers. Anthony Davis is supposed to be back tonight, so we're going to go over 228. We're going to take the Heat on the money line on Sunday. So we got a 3-day stretch out this parlay. Heat on the money line over the Bulls. Bulls got nothing to play for other than maybe ping pong ball, get a couple percentage points better, and maybe get Victor Wembanyama. And we're going to take the Kings on the money line against the Wizards the Bullets rather. I do not acknowledge the Washington Wizards as an entity. They will always be the Washington Bullets, John. So we have them winning on Sunday as well. Altogether, that pays you out plus 5807. I've hit one of them at least. Why not a second?
Alex, one quick thing. Did you mention the Bulls tanking? Because the Bulls do not own their first round pick this year.
Oh, all right. Well, then, so maybe they got pride to play for. So
Uh
the Heat should still beat them.
they should, but Alex, we do have one thing speaking of the mock draft as we close out today's show. Alex, we are going to run the NBA Tankathon mock draft simulator.
Spin the wheel, baby.
Alex, who would you like to win this week's NBA mock draft?
Stand by.
Take your pick, but then I will spin the wheel, my friend.
I think I accidentally did this before we jumped on, and so the Jazz had a prayer of being in the lottery. So hell, give me the Jazz.
I'm going to go with. I'm gonna go with not the Pacers, excuse me, the Blazers.
All right.
All right. Ooh.
I was gonna say the Blazers should lose the Celtics tonight. So unfortunately, they were not our lucky winners of the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes, and that would go to none other than the Washington Bullets, who do not deserve Victor Wembanyama.
Be a fantastic pairing with Bradley Beal, though.
Yeah, until he wants a trade.
I don't think he would have. Yo, I don't think he would if they got Victor Wembanyama. That's all I'm saying, man.
Yeah,
Alex, that is our show for today, though. Is there anything that you would like to say to our viewers?
Yeah, check out more GNASS content on our Substack. It's under the umbrella of alexander.lacasse at substack.com. You can also find it on the link tree. We'll have some great content in the days to come. And if you bet on Gonzaga to finally break through after having the likes of Domantas Sabonis, Jalen Suggs over the years, then I can't help you. You're fucked. And I'm sorry, and you have a few life choices to regret. John, anything else for the lovely audience?
Have a safe and happy St. Patrick's Day. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. As Alex said, jump on our link tree for some more GNAS comment. And thank you for listening, everyone.